put your hand up if you're struggling with debt payments and you're looking for a solution to help you still pay it off, but just more affordably for your pocket. Now, my name is Garland, and what I want to do with you today is break down the debt review process and maybe make it a little bit easier to understand. You know, it's quite a clouded topic with so many people saying it's bad and it's good and I can't pay and I can't get out and there's no one this, and so we decided to make a series of videos to break it down for you, to make it more understandable, especially during these times where all our salaries were affected. They were decreased, but the debt was kept the same and only increased. So what we want to do is break down a little bit more detail and see if we can help understand it. So our first question is, what is debt review and how it came about? So the National Credit Act brought about the debt review process, which allowed over-indebted South Africans to pay off their debt just more affordably. Now, what do we mean by over-indebted? Now, over-indebted can be broken down into two things. So the first thing is arrear accounts, which means that these are accounts that are either missed payments or partially missed payments, meaning the account is falling behind. Now, this is not an ideal situation because it can attract legal action at a point, which is something you're trying to avoid. The second part, over-indebted, means that people cannot afford their monthly debt payments. Although they realize that they want to, they're still obligated to pay it, they want to pay it. It's just unaffordable with the salaries that are being affected, and also the amount of credit that might be due to a customer, meaning that, you know, more and more loans just make it more and more interest and all of that. So the second thing is, what is debt review and what is the process? So what it'll do is you need to apply to a registered debt counselor. Now, how you check if someone is registered is you look on the NCR and you ask them for a certificate, which they should have a registration certificate, and you take that and double check it on the NCR website to make sure that they are registered. So you know you're working with someone who can provide you with a solution and also provide you with the advantages that we'll show you about just now. So what is the debt review process? It's when you apply to a debt counselor and they will assess your situation to see if you're over indebted, and if you are, you will then sign up with a debt counselor that will allow them to renegotiate and restructure your payment program into something that's more affordable. Now, by more affordable, meaning that it also becomes a court order, and now the court order is something that's just set in stone so that we, the creditors, and you understand that there's now an acceptance in terms of a lowered payment, and each person will get their payments. Now, the biggest mistakes we see people making is that, firstly, they don't look for a registered debt counselor, which I will show you now what the advantages are. And the biggest mistake we see people making is trying to negotiate directly with the creditors on their own. Now, for us to understand why this is a big mistake, we can move on to the advantages of debt review. Now, the advantages are, firstly, that it protects your assets. Now, that is probably the biggest advantage to most people, knowing that their house and their car is safe. Would you not agree? It's probably the two most expensive things we'll own, and to know that it is protected provides a lot of relief to most customers we speak with. The second option is that, or the second advantage is that it protects you against legal action, which means that the creditors can't throw legal letters at you and swear at you and threaten you to pay accounts, because it's now it falls under the debt review process, which means that we are now restructuring the program so that they will be paid just at a lower monthly fee. And the last advantage is that there's a lower monthly repayment, which means it's more affordable for you while still keeping all the creditors happy. So that kind of is quite a nice advantage if you put all those three together, to know that you're safe, it's more affordable, and your assets and house are still going to be there tomorrow. So with that always comes a disadvantage, unfortunately. Now, the biggest disadvantage that takes place under the debt review process is that you cannot have access to more credit during this, which kind of makes sense, right? I mean, the whole point of this is that you're struggling to pay your current debt, so a debt counselor is helping you to pay an affordable plan to pay it all off and get it out the way. So to go and get more credit only makes your situation worse. So you are flagged at the credit bureau, which means that they are putting a temporary hold on your account so that you can't pay or you can't get more credit, because we're trying to pay off this lump sum that you're struggling to. Now, the other mistake that we always see is around the fact that people want to know, how do I get out? Now, how to leave debt review. Now, the only way to leave debt review is to pay off all your short-term debt. Now, what is short-term debt? That's credit cards, personal loans, overdrafts, your car and all that. Once that's paid off, you will then be issued with a credit certificate, a clearance certificate. What a clearance certificate means is that we alert all the credit bureaus and everybody necessary that the client has now paid up everything. You have now paid up all your short-term debt, which means you can leave the debt review process and carry on with life and skip down the road all happy. Now, the only debt that will be left is if you have to pay off a house. Now, that's long-term debt. Now, that can be done out of the debt review process, but because all your short-term debt's paid off, your long-term debt will be more affordable, because you now have the money that was used to pay the short-term debt can now be allocated to pay your house. Does that make sense? So once again, we want to explain to you or summarize what debt review means, and it is brought about to help South Africans who are struggling with debt and who still were obligated to keep their name clean, but just keep the creditors happy at the same time. We know we've taken that debt. We know we want to pay it. We just need a little bit of assistance so that we can still put food on the table. We can still send the kids to the school. We can still travel to work, but still keep our creditors happy, knowing that at one point the debt will be paid off. Now, debt review is on average worked out over 60 months, on average. Now, we've seen accounts where it's a lot lower than that. But we've also seen accounts where it's a lot higher than that. So certain creditors allow you to pay it off a lot longer and some want it a little bit shorter. But the average is over 60 months. Now, what most people don't tell you is that, let's give you an example of, this is what you're currently paying for your debt. So this is per month. Let's say it's 10,000 Rand per month. And for an example, we lower it for you to 5,000 Rand a month. Per month. Now, this is the bare minimum. Once agreed upon with the creditors and everybody, this is the minimum that you have to pay every month to keep everyone happy and to take advantage of the advantages that I just showed you. Now, what a lot of clients tend to do is that every now and then they tend to, put in a little bit extra. So let's say instead of paying 5,000 Rand this month, they're going to pay 7,000 Rand a month, which means that your debt just comes down a lot quicker. So let's say, for instance, you can afford this for the next 3 months, then good for you. But if a month comes where it's a little bit tough again and you can't afford it, then all you do is you just cover the 5,000. Now, I'm hoping this makes sense and gives you a little bit of an idea as to, you don't have to be stuck in this for the full term. Yes, it's advantageous to certain parties, but we're here to provide value to the customer, and also to understand that this is not all doom and gloom as is always portrayed with this industry, in terms of once you're in debt review, you're stuck and you can't get out and all that. So if you want information about debt review, speak to a registered debt counselor. Now, once again, look on the NCR's website. Speak to a registered debt counselor about the process. Don't listen to everybody on Facebook or people that don't have an idea of really how the whole system works and what it can do for you and what you can get out. I mean, there are thousands of South Africans who have been through this process and who have got out again. Now, unfortunately, those people are never the vocal ones. It's always the ones that are stuck in the process because of circumstances that happen, but they're blaming the debt review process, which it's not really is. So always speak to a registered debt counselor when you want any information about this. And what we'll do is we're going to release a whole bunch of different videos that breaks down debt review a little bit further. So it will start explaining what blacklisting is, and it'll start explaining what sequestration is, and consolidation loans and all that. So it'll give you a little bit more information as to what the whole process entails. And also below the video is a link to get in touch with one of the We Reduce Debt debt counselors, and to discuss your unique situation and see where they can help and how much more affordable they can make it for you. They also give you a free quote, which means that you can compare what you're currently paying to what the lower payment will be and see if there is an advantage for you. Maybe it just allows this month and going forward to just have less stress and a relief knowing that you're still paying your debt, but you have more money available to cover the necessary expenses and just get you through. So keep a lookout for our next videos, and thank you for your time for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.